Man, get a job. LeBron James said it without thinking, without even really looking. Just 3 words, tossed casually over his shoulder as he walked from his Rolls-Royce toward the private entrance of Crypto.com arenas in downtown Los Angeles. It was a Tuesday night, game day against the Celtics, and his mind was already on the court. Defensive rotations, pick-and-roll coverages, the post-game press conference he'd have to do. He didn't have time for this. The homeless man had been sitting against the concrete wall near the VIP parking entrance for weeks. LeBron had seen him before, always in the same spot, always with the same weathered green military jacket, the same cardboard sign with the faded marker writing, "Veteran, anything helps, God bless." Tonight the man had made the mistake of standing up as LeBron passed, taking a single shuffling step forward. "Mr. James, sir, Man, get a job." LeBron cut him off, not breaking stride. His tone wasn't cruel exactly. It was worse. It was dismissive, bored, the way you'd swat away a fly. "Stop sitting out here begging. Put in some work." LeBron's entourage, 3 security guards, his personal assistant, his publicist, flowed around the homeless man like water around a stone. Someone laughed, though LeBron couldn't tell who. The man shuffled backward, his head dropping, and LeBron forgot about him before he'd even reached the door. But someone else didn't forget. In the crowd of fans pressed against the security barriers, recording every moment on their phones, a young woman named Jenna Martinez had her camera pointed at exactly the right angle. She caught it all. LeBron's comment, the dismissive wave, the homeless man stepping back like he'd been struck. She posted it on Twitter before the game even started. By halftime, it had 2 million views. By the final buzzer, it was trending worldwide. LeBron James tells homeless veteran to get a job outside Crypto.com arena. Disgusting. The backlash was instant, ferocious. LeBron's social media mentions became a war zone. ESPN ran segments analyzing whether this would damage his legacy. Sports blogs called him heartless, out of touch, a hypocrite, given all his activism and charity work. And through it all, nobody knew the man's name. Nobody knew that Raymond Ray Carter was 62 years old, that he'd enlisted in the Army at 18, that he'd served in the Gulf War as a combat medic with the 3rd Armored Division. Nobody knew that on February 27th, 1991, the last day of Operation Desert Storm. Sergeant Raymond Carter had crawled through 200 meters of burning oil fields to reach a disabled Bradley fighting vehicle where 6 men were trapped, had pulled them out one by one while Iraqi artillery rounds exploded around him, and had carried the last man, unconscious, both legs shattered, across his shoulders, through smoke so thick he couldn't see 3 feet ahead. Nobody knew he held the Purple Heart for the shrapnel wounds in his back that still hurt when it rained, or the Bronze Star with Valor for saving those 6 lives. Nobody knew that when he came home, he couldn't find work, that the nightmares made it hard to sleep, and the sleep deprivation made it hard to hold a job, that his wife left, his savings ran out, his VA benefits got tangled in bureaucracy, and he ended up on the streets with nothing but that green jacket and a sign. Nobody knew, but they were about to find out. 3 days later, LeBron's Malibu home. LeBron James sat in his living room, phone in hand, watching his Twitter mentions explode. His publicist, Sarah Chen, sat across from him, laptop open, her expression grim. "It's bad, LeBron. Really bad," Sarah said. "We're getting calls from everyone. ESPN wants a statement. TMZ is camped outside your house. Veterans groups are organizing protests." "Protests?" LeBron looked up, incredulous. Over 3 words. Over 3 words said to a homeless veteran. Sarah corrected, which, by the way, is trending #1 worldwide right now. LeBron scrolled through his mentions, his jaw tight. Some of it was the usual Twitter pile-on, but some of it cut deeper. Veterans posting their own service photos. Gold Star families condemning him. Even some of his own fans saying they were done. "I didn't know he was a veteran," LeBron said, his voice defensive. "That's the problem," Sarah said bluntly. "You didn't know because you didn't look. You just saw a homeless person and assumed. I was late for the game. My mind was on basketball. That's not going to fly as an excuse, not when there's video of you literally telling him to get a job." Sarah turned her laptop around, showed him the comments section. "Look at this. People are digging into your charity work, calling it performative. They're saying your activism is fake. This is the kind of thing that sticks, LeBron. This is legacy damage." LeBron's hands tightened around his phone. "So what do I do?" "You apologize, publicly, immediately, and you find that veteran, and you make it right. I don't even know his name. Then we find out his name. We track him down, and you look him in the eye, and you apologize like you mean it." Sarah closed her laptop, because if you don't, this story is going to define you, not your championships, not your stats. This. LeBron leaned back, closed his eyes. In his mind, he could still see the man, thin, weathered, that green jacket, the cardboard sign. He'd walked past him a dozen times, never stopped, never asked his name, never wondered about his story, and now the whole world was wondering for him. "Find him," LeBron said quietly. "I need to make this right." Same day. Downtown. Ella Marcus Thompson had been working with Los Angeles homeless veterans for 12 years, and he thought he'd heard every story. But Raymond Carter's stopped him cold. He'd first approached Ray 3 weeks ago during one of his regular outreach walks through downtown LA. Ray had been sitting in his usual spot, outside Crypto.com arena. "You a veteran?" Marcus had asked, noticing the faded jacket. Ray had nodded, not making eye contact. "Long time ago." "Which branch?" "Army, Gulf War." Marcus pulled out his tablet, started entering information. "Let's see if we can get you into housing. The VA has programs." "Tried already," Ray said quietly. "Didn't work out." But Marcus was persistent. Over the next few weeks, he'd stopped by regularly, slowly building trust. He'd learned that Ray had been living on the streets for 8 years, that he had a daughter somewhere in Arizona he hadn't spoken to in a decade, that he collected aluminum cans during the day to buy food. What Marcus hadn't known, what Ray hadn't mentioned, was what happened in Iraq. It was only when Marcus finally convinced Ray to come to the VA Outreach Center, when they started processing his records, that the truth emerged. The intake counselor had pulled up Ray's service file and gone very quiet. "Mr. Carter," she'd said, her voice changing, "did you know you're eligible for benefits you're not receiving?" Ray had shrugged. "Paperwork got lost. Your file says you have the Purple Heart and Bronze Star with Valor device." Marcus had looked up sharply. "Valor?" The counselor turned her monitor. Marcus read the citation, read it again. His hands started shaking. Bronze Star Medal with Valor for conspicuous gallantry on February 27th, 1991. Sergeant Carter, under intense enemy fire, single-handedly rescued 6 soldiers from a disabled vehicle in the midst of burning oil fields. Despite sustaining shrapnel wounds, he made multiple trips through the flames, ultimately carrying an unconscious soldier to safety. His actions undoubtedly saved 6 lives. "Jesus Christ," Marcus whispered. "Ray, why didn't you tell me?" Ray looked uncomfortable. "It was just my job." That was 2 days before the LeBron incident, when Marcus saw the video, saw Ray being dismissed, humiliated, told to Get a job. He made a decision. This man had saved 6 lives. He'd bled for his country, and now he was being treated like garbage. Marcus picked up his phone and called every reporter he knew. "I've got a story for you," he said, "about a homeless veteran outside Crypto.com arena, the one LeBron James just insulted on camera. Want to know who he really is?" 2 days later, LA Times publication. The headline dominated the front page of the Los Angeles Times. LeBron James dismissed a homeless veteran with "Get a job." Raymond Carter, Gulf War hero, deserves better. Below it were 2 photos, side by side. Left, Ray in his green military jacket, sitting outside Crypto.com arena. Right, a grainy military photograph from 1991. Young Sergeant Raymond Carter, in his 3rd Armored Division uniform, taken just before deployment to the Gulf. The story was brutal. LeBron James, one of America's most famous athletes, had caused a 62-year-old Gulf War veteran to be humiliated for doing nothing wrong, for simply existing. By Sunday morning, the story had gone national. ESPN, CNN, Fox, every sports blog. Twitter exploded. LeBron James disrespects a Gulf War veteran. Disgusting. Raymond Carter saved 6 lives in Iraq. LeBron James tells him to get a job. Shameful. I've lost all respect for LeBron. That man bled for his country, and LeBron treats him like trash. 3 days later, LeBron's press conference. I screwed up. LeBron James sat at a table in the media room at Crypto.com arena, flanked by his publicist and the Lakers' head of PR. In front of him was a sea of cameras, microphones, and reporters who smelled blood in the water. A few weeks ago, I was late for a team meeting. I was frustrated, and outside the arena there was a man, Mr. Raymond Carter, sitting there, and I just said, "Get a job." 3 words, without thinking, without looking. He paused, took a breath. I didn't know at the time that Mr. Carter is a 62-year-old Gulf War veteran, that he's a hero who saved 6 men in Iraq, that he holds the Purple Heart and Bronze Star with Valor. But honestly, that shouldn't have mattered. He was a human being, and because I didn't see him, because I treated him that way, I am deeply ashamed. A reporter raised her hand. "Mr. James, have you spoken to Mr. Carter directly?" "I've tried," LeBron admitted. "We're trying to find him, and when we do, I'm going to look him in the eye and give him the apology I owe him." "What do you want to say to him?" LeBron looked directly into the camera. "Mr. Carter, I'm sorry. I was arrogant, impatient, and blind. You served our country. You bled. You saved lives. And I treated you like you were worthless. That was wrong. Deeply, profoundly wrong. And if you'll allow it, I want to make this right." The press conference wrapped. LeBron walked out, his publicist at his side. "That went well," Sarah said. LeBron shook his head. "It doesn't matter how it went. What matters is if we find him, and if he forgives me." 1 week later, Crypto.com arena. The roar of 19,000 people hit like a physical wave. Raymond Carter stood at midfield of Crypto.com arena, wearing a Lakers jersey, Carter on the back, with number 27, February 27th, the date he'd never forget. The stadium announcer's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a true American hero. Raymond Carter served with the 3rd Armored Division during the Gulf War. On February 27th, 1991, the last day of Operation Desert Storm, Sergeant Carter rescued 6 wounded soldiers under enemy fire in burning oil fields. He was awarded the Bronze Star for Valor and the Purple Heart. Today, we honor him." The crowd erupted. Not polite applause, a standing ovation. 19,000 people on their feet, screaming, chanting, "Ray, Ray, Ray." Ray's eyes welled up. He'd spent 32 years trying not to think about that day, trying not to remember the cold water, the flames, the sounds. And now it was on a screen the size of a building, and 19,000 strangers were cheering for him. LeBron James walked onto the court. He wasn't in uniform. He wore a simple black suit. In his hands, he carried something small, wrapped in cloth. LeBron approached Ray slowly. The arena went silent again, 19,000 people holding their breath. LeBron stopped in front of Ray. He didn't tower over him, didn't dominate. Instead, he knelt, one knee on the hardwood floor, eye level. "Mr. Carter," LeBron said, and the microphones picked it up, broadcast across the arena, across the world. "I owe you an apology. 3 days ago I walked past you, and I didn't see you. I didn't see your service. I didn't see your sacrifice. I saw a homeless man, and I made a judgment, and I was wrong, deeply, profoundly wrong." Ray stood frozen, his hands trembling. LeBron continued, "You saved 6 lives in Iraq. You bled for this country. And I told you to get a job, like you hadn't already given everything." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm so sorry." He held out the wrapped cloth. Ray took it with shaking hands, unwrapped it. An American flag, and beneath it, a check. Ray's eyes widened. "That's a donation to the Veterans Housing Initiative in your name," LeBron said. $500,000 to make sure no veteran ever has to sleep on the street again. The crowd exploded again, but LeBron wasn't finished. He stood, placed his hand on Ray's shoulder. "And you're not homeless anymore, Mr. Carter. I've arranged for permanent housing, fully furnished, rent paid, for life." Ray's legs buckled. LeBron caught him, held him up. And then Raymond Carter, Purple Heart recipient, Bronze Star holder, 62 years old, 8 years homeless, buried his face in LeBron James's shoulder and wept. 19,000 people wept with him. Later, after the game, a Lakers win, Ray watched from a suite, guest of honor. Ray sat alone for a moment. His daughter Linda found him there. For the first time in 8 years, LeBron's team had found her. "You okay, Dad?" Ray nodded. I don't think I deserve this." Linda sat beside him. "You deserve it. Every second of it." Ray was quiet. Then, "The boys who didn't come home, they're the ones who should be remembered." "They are," Linda said gently, "because of you, because you're still here, still showing people what honor looks like." Ray thought about that, about the oil fields, about the 6 men, about doing his job, even when it was hard. "Maybe," he said finally, and for the first time in 32 years, talking about that day didn't hurt quite so much. Raymond Carter's story reminds us, true heroes serve quietly. They never seek the spotlight. They never expect applause. They just do what's right. And sometimes, the greatest lesson comes from humility, both the humility of veterans and the humility of leaders who correct their mistakes. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe to empowering stories to honor our veterans. Have you ever judged someone only to learn their incredible story? Share below. Remember, the quietest service deserves the highest respect.